Hey, hi, hello there. It's Ben from the Hodeg Store, and you're listening to Bigfoot Society Podcast.
Thanks for coming back to Bigfoot Society, your weekly cryptozoology focused podcast where I talk to a different individual in the cryptozoology field, authors, researchers, artists, all sorts of people. If you're listening to this on iTunes, please go ahead, subscribe to this podcast and rate us 5 stars, as it helps us get more into the podcast stratosphere and get better guests on the show. Also, if you're on YouTube, do us a favor, like this video and subscribe to this channel. It doesn't cost a thing, and it helps us get out there into the YouTube stratosphere as well. Be sure to leave what your favorite part of the episode was in the comment. Welcome back to another episode of the Bigfoot Society podcast. This week I get to talk to my new friend Zack Starrick from the Southern Illinois Monster Hunters team. And Zack has got some really interesting cryptid encounter stories that he's going to share. Everything from Bigfoot to his most recent sighting. He was able to see the Enfield Horror or the Enfield Monster just a few nights ago. So very, very interesting story about a cryptid that hasn't been seen since the mid-70s. So definitely sit back, relax, and enjoy this fun chat with friend Zack Starrick from the Southern Illinois Monster Hunters. All right, Bigfoot Society, we've got another episode for you. Thanks for coming back for another episode. This time I've got my friend Zack from Southern Illinois Monster Hunters. How's it going? It's Zack Starrick, right?
Yep, you're the first person in a long time to actually get it right. They always butcher the last name.
Wow. I'm a lucky guy tonight because I didn't check with you. So I was like, oh, okay. But hey, that's cool. So how's it going down there in Southern Illinois, sir?
Very hot.
Is it?
To say the least.
Oh my goodness.
We worked all day, and I sat around the office all day today and basically checked on pumps as it pumped 32% liquid nitrogen all day.
Oh man. Yikes. Wow. I'm in central Iowa, and we're a little bit toasty right now, but we're going to get down to like, we're supposed to get down to like the 40s to 50s tomorrow, which is kind of wild, but Iowa's weird. It's the Midwest. It's all good. But Zack, let's start out with a little bio about yourself. I'm going to start with, do you mind sharing what you feel is important about yourself? Because you sent a bio to me, and there's a lot of cool stuff in there. But I'm curious, what would you like to share?
Well, I will throw this out there. I am a Christian. I am a God-fearing Christian at that.
Yep.
I'm a bass singer in a gospel quartet singing Southern gospel all across America. I'm a preacher, and I'm a witness for God. Just put that right off the bat right there. It's faith, family, and cryptids in that order. And I grew up in rural Williamson County, Illinois, at the southern end of the state. Literally right out my back door is the Shawnee National Forest. And other than that, I'm a second-generation cattle farmer. I am a fourth-generation pro wrestler. Been doing cryptid work for the past 17 years and everything since I had my first encounter back in 2009. Actually, right here in the county that I'm in right now, in Randolph County, and literally only about maybe 5 to 7 miles away from here is where it happened.
Wow.
And that's what started the journey. As an obsession to as a mission to find closure into what I heard that night, and then it turned into a mission to prove that modern day monsters, quote unquote, exists in North America today. And then I work for Southern Farm Supply here in Southern Illinois. I work in a little town called Jacob, which is right outside of Murfreesboro, Illinois, with actually the creature from Big Muddy, the Big Muddy monster,
totally
actually reared its head back in 1972. And, I live in a hotbed of activity here in Southern Illinois.
You
We've
do.
got so many cryptid creatures that was reported in the 70s alone,
Mm-hmm.
along with the Enfield monster, the Thunderbird, the Hampmine monster, the Big Muddy monster, and then upstate by St. Louis in Alton, Illinois, is the Piasa bird
Yes.
from Illini folklore. And we got werewolf sightings, Dogman. We've got ghosts. We've actually had Mothman sightings here in the next county over from where I live in Southern Illinois, in Saline County, and it's a creepy place, just to be honest with you.
So central Iowa I've been down to Southern Illinois a few times. I went to camp down there once, and I'll agree with you. Like it's heavily wooded. There's a lot of places that a lot of things could just hide out in the woods.
I mean, you like you said, and not only that, Southern Illinois is a smelting pot of different terrains. You'll go from agricultural ground to really thick canopy flatlands to hill country, creeks to rivers, ponds to lakes. You'll go from wide open farm country to swamps, river bottoms, creek bottoms, uh, an abundance of wildlife whenever it comes to like white-tailed deer, coons, possum, turkeys, coyotes, even bobcats and mountain lions. And actually, we've actually had a couple reports of wolves here in Southern Illinois as well. And we got livestock, cattle, hogs, horses, chickens, ducks, geese. You name it, we got it.
It's wild.
Well, that's how I tell everybody. Southern Illinois is pretty much the only place in America that you can go and have all 4 seasons in 1 week.
That's true. The Midwest is like that. It's so crazy. Do you mind if we try? We're gonna do a little bit of tech troubleshooting in the middle of the interview, which is gonna be fun. Your mic on your AirPod is doing some wonky static stuff all of a sudden. Do you mind if I just have you take it out and we'll try it without it?
Yeah.
Okay. It's really weird, but just for funzos.
Let's see. Can you hear me?
Yeah, that'll work. This will work. Yep.
Okay.
Perfect.
No, it's probably the air conditioner running.
Okay. Let me mess with the level real quick just to get you back. Okay. I'll have you say another sentence there, Zach.
Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3.
Perfect. We're good to go. All right. So there are so many places we could start. Man, let's start with this. So you alluded to you had a encounter in 2009. Was that what originally got you into cryptids, or was there something even earlier than that got you interested in the weird?
Well, growing up and everything, I was brought up old-fashioned and everything. I grew up watching, old Universal movies that my dad and my mother got me watching. I was introduced to the likes of Bela Lugosi, Lon Chaney Jr., Boris Karloff, Glenn Strange, who played the Mummy, the Wolf Man, Frankenstein, and Dracula. And, I always had what's the term? Craving for the unknown. And, when I started, growing up, you would hear stories from the old timers.
Yeah.
About, the hairy man in the woods.
Ooh.
Well, growing up, I never really put any kind of stock in it until one night, my dad and me, we came back from St. Louis one night. We were at a night game at Busch Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
And we had got home to where we was living with my grandfather at the time on South Prairie Road, just outside of Redbud, Illinois.
Okay.
And it's not like this place is wide open and there's neighbors like a mile down the road. They're literally right up next to you within 50 yards of your property line. And, it's wide open farm country. Big time farmers run that area. And we come inside the garage because the way the house was built, there's the house and then it's got the garage attached to it. And you go in the back door of the garage and go in through a side door into the house. And one night, the night that we came home, we were inside the garage and the coyotes started raising up a fuss.
Oh boy.
And right as my dad went to go put the key in the lock to unlock the door, we heard kind of like a howling scream that just erupted out of the cornfield.
Really?
And I remember, I'm 27 years old, and I was 9 years old when this happened. And I remember that it had so much power that I could actually hear the windows and the window panes rattling. And I about pulled the door off trying to get into the house.
Wow.
And cut to 10 years later, cut to, I'm trying to think. I'm a C plus, man. I'm not good with.
You're good,
numbers.
man. You're good. Yeah.
Back in 2013, 2014.
Okay.
Because this happened back whenever I was 9 years old. So this would have been in 2004 when this happened.
Okay.
And I was sitting there just surfing through the web on my dad's laptop. And I found this video on YouTube, and it was the Ohio moaning call.
Yeah, the Ohio howl.
Mm-hmm. And I played that thing back, and I was sitting there listening to it, and then all of a sudden a little light went off in my head, and I was having all kinds of flashbacks. And I played that thing over, and I'm like, holy crap, this is what I heard that night.
Wow.
And, right there is where it all started for me, because it started trying to find closure of what I heard. And then it turned into a mission to prove that, quote unquote, modern day monsters exist in Southern Illinois and around the world.
Wow. That is a really cool story. Tying right into that. So, because you got a lot going on, you've already said that you are, you're a Christian. Your bio says that you're a preacher as well. Mm-hmm. And so I've talked to people. Well, I've talked to primarily Mark Madsky about this from Small Town Monsters, because he's a pastor as well. And I just was curious to get his thoughts on it. But, my question for you is, so do you ever find there's are you able to reconcile like your love for cryptids with your love for, being a pastor? Do those work together, or how's the relationship between those two parts of yourself?
Oh, there's no dividend, it runs like a well-oiled machine, because like it says over here, and let me find it right here, because I got my Bible with me for everybody that's watching.
All right.
It says in Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Everything came from God. God created everything. And like it says right here, in Genesis 1:24, then God said, let the earth bring forth the living creature according to its kind, cattle and creeping thing, and beasts of the earth, each according to its kind, and it was so. And God made the beasts of the earth according to its kind, cattle according to its kind, and everything that creeps on the earth according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. I believe that these are something, that God's actually created.
Okay, and that leads into, I was going to ask you soon enough is, so when you're looking at, let's focus specifically on Bigfoot, like what are you thinking that Bigfoot is? Because, I talk to so many people where there's some people where they're like, paranormal, alien, or like, missing link or undiscovered ape, or like, what are you picturing in your mind when you're thinking of this, hairy man in the woods or whatever?
Well, whenever it comes down to Bigfoot, what they exactly are, I do not know. I do believe that they are something that God created. But I do know this from encounters that I've had. because I've actually had a couple of encounters where it was actually hands-on type deal.
Really?
And these things are flesh and blood.
Mm.
I do not believe they cloak. I do not
Okay.
believe they mind speak. And whenever I tell people that I don't believe they cloak, I tell them we're not dealing with the predator here.
Right, of course. The classic movie, yeah.
And I don't believe, and whenever it comes to them being portal jumpers and stuff like that, I don't believe that is Bigfoot. I do believe people are seeing something, but I don't think it's Bigfoot. I think it's something that's using the guise of Bigfoot to mask its true identity.
Really? Oh, and so we're used to seeing something like Bigfoot in our culture, and it's using that in our minds. Yeah, I've heard of that theory before. Yeah, that's very interesting.
Because here's the thing. Look in pop culture. Bigfoot's on everything. Bigfoot's
He is.
There's a monster truck named after him. There's movies. There's even a pizza. He's in Jack Link's commercials. He's in movies and cartoons and on television. He was in the $6 Million Man whenever he was played by Andre the Giant, and then he was in Henderson's. And then there's been documentaries made about him. Mm-hmm. Everybody that owns a television has some sort of image in their mind of what a Bigfoot might look like.
That's true.
And I believe that it could be some kind something extraterrestrial in origin or some kind of entity that's manifesting itself, and it's using the guise of a Bigfoot to hide its true identity because that's more comprehensible to us as humans than, seeing the true form. I mean, which one would you rather see? A Bigfoot that's 8 foot tall, about 400 pounds with brown hair, or would you rather see something green and scaly with a horn growing out the side of its head and 8 arms and teeth that hang down to its nipples?
Well, if we're starting to see those, I think it's close to game over, dude. Like, Zach, that's some scary stuff, man.
That's just my opinion.
I got you.
You can take it with a grain of salt, because that's all it is. It's a theory. It's not fact. For real.
Yeah. Not to rabbit trail too much, but talking about that there's a creature that could cloak that we're seeing as Bigfoot. Like, what do you think that actually is then? If you have any ideas.
I don't know. I'll be honest.
All right.
With you. I think if I was to take a guess, I would believe that it is something else.
Okay.
Completely different and separate from Bigfoot.
Gotcha. And not to get too much into, I don't know if you listen to the Blurry Creatures podcast at all. If you don't, you would probably really like it. But do you think there's any connection between, the cryptids we study in cryptozoology and things that we find in the Bible? Do you think there's things ever called out in there? Or I know this can go a lot of different ways.
Have to come back to that. Let me mull it over.
All right. Yeah. That's a tricky one. That is a really tricky question because it's like you can go Genesis 6 or, I've heard all sorts of interesting things for sure. Why, to really change up gears here, I'm always curious, your area of Southern Illinois, there's so much going on down there. And that, Lauren Coleman was investigating down there. And I think John Keel was investigating stuff down there back in the day as well. Talking about the 70s, right? But
the decade of monsters, I call it.
The decade of monsters, yeah. So why is that region called Little Egypt? Do you know any of the, I've always thought that's kind of fascinating.
A lot of the places around here in Southern Illinois are named after Egyptian
right.
cities.
Yeah.
Like there's Cairo, Illinois. There's Karnak, Illinois. Where's another place? I think there's Galatia, Illinois. I think that's in Egypt.
No, you're absolutely right, though. Yeah, it's because I forgot the Egypt cities. Yeah. Why is it that all this weirdness occurs in this area? Do you have any theories about that, or?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. I think I heard Kim Gerhard, a good friend of mine. He said that one time. He says that Illinois is a window state.
Oh, interesting.
And if you look at a map of ley lines where they run, there's a major one that runs right through Southern Illinois.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Ley lines are so interesting because it's like there's no, so from my research, and correct me if I'm off on this, but like there's no official map of ley lines, but you can like find ley lines out there, correct? Like
Right.
the maps of them,
Energy
right?
work.
Okay. And because I've looked up Iowa before, and I think there's like one that goes through the state, but it's not near my area. But whatever. So are you in close proximity then to supposedly where this ley line goes through Illinois?
Well, yes, because the ley line pretty much takes up about 6 counties wide, going right through southern Illinois, going north to south.
Okay.
And the weird thing is, which I call it, I find it ironic that a ley line is supposed to be good energy, but we're sitting right on the New Madrid fault line.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So is expected there to be a big earthquake in the future in that area of
Sometime in the
Illinois?
next 50 years, they said.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man, dude, that's not
and
cool.
Of course, they said that back in 2004. So it's
Sure.
The clock's winding down. I'm not kidding. We just had an earthquake here on Wednesday, and
Really?
it was a 2.3 on the Richter scale, and it was right outside of Mount Vernon, Illinois.
No way. Holy mackerel. Holy mackerel. That is so wild. I mean, man, I gotta open up my eyes out of Iowa every once in a while, I guess. But you also alluded to you've had encounters in the past that have gotten pretty close up. Do you mind sharing what that exactly means? I find that could be very interesting.
Enough to where I could reach out and touch them.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow, you talking about like Bigfoot type creatures, or? Oh man.
Happened the first one that one of those that happened. I was actually on because we with the SIMH we do annual campouts every year.
Okay.
And usually in the spring or in the fall, and because I've heard a lot because I go and I base off whenever I go and set the dates for the event and everything, because it's only a weekend and everything. I know people work.
Right.
So, and then I try to find a place, and I'll go and I'll match up the time of the year with that place, and wherever there's a heightened set of Bigfoot reports in that area. And just like how we did here back in April, from April 1st to the 3rd, we were in the Shawnee National Forest in an area that we call no man's land.
Oh, really?
And right in that area around the first week of April to the first week of May, there's a height of Bigfoot reports.
Wow.
So we hit that area. But getting back to the encounter, this happened on our first annual camp out, and it was just me and my cousin Kyle Nation.
Okay.
And we call him Big Country. And we were camping out, and it was the last night. This was in November of 2016.
All right.
And it was cold. I'll say that much, because I almost froze to death the first night because I brought a summer sleeping bag and it dropped down to 30 degrees.
Wow.
So the last night that we were there, and it was about 4:00 in the morning, and I start hearing some rustling going on around in our camp.
Oh man.
And I thought it was the blue tick hound that we brought with us, because she would go out, and we brought her because she's a track dog. And we would go and follow her lead. If she took off on a trail of something, we would follow her around while we was looking around on our own, trying to find our own trails. And I thought it was her getting into the cooler.
Okay.
Well, then I sitting there half awake, and I roll over, and I was going to tell her to get out of the cooler and holler at her. And I roll over, and I'm in my tent, and right there the fire is going bright as it can, stoked all the way, and I'm seeing the silhouette of one, and it's got the lid of the cooler up, and
Oh
it's
no.
going through the cooler. And I just kind of shifted in my sleeping bag, and he stopped. And then he stood up and walked away. And I thought it was Kyle screwing around looking for a midnight snack.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I went back to sleep. And then about a half hour later, I'm laying in there and I feel my tent shift. And I'm sitting there with one eye open, that fire's still going. I'm looking straight up at where this thing is. And you can see not a defined shadow, but a shadow over one corner of my tent. And I'm sleeping in a little 2-person dome Ozark Trail.
Okay. Yep.
And I thought it was Kyle screwing around. And I told him, I said, Kyle, if you're out there messing with my tent, I'm going to come out there and I'm going to whoop you.
I'm going to wrestle you, dude.
And
yeah.
Well, here's the thing with Kyle's poker face sucks.
Okay. Okay.
If you come on to him and you catch him anything, he'll
right.
So it's a dead giveaway. And whenever I told him, I said, Kyle, if that's you out there, I'm going to come out there and whoop you. He didn't giggle.
Oh, man. Okay.
And then I'm hearing snoring in the tent next to me. And I'm like, okay, so he's in his tent. Who's out there? And about that time, I'm laying because the tent wasn't very wide. So I'm laying crossways in it at an angle. And about that time, one corner of that tent comes up out of the ground.
No way.
And I'm like, what is going on? And that thing starts going up and down, pulling on that corner of that tent. And my feet are going up like that. And I'm trying to go and get out of my sleeping bag. And next thing you know, I'm feeling the ground moving underneath of me.
Oh, man.
And this thing has got a hold of my tent with me in it and dragging it off.
No way, dude. Really?
Yes, and I sit there, and all I had was a knife in there with me, a big bowie knife with a 14-inch blade. And I start kicking this thing through the tent wall, screaming for it to let me go. And I'm not kidding. You'd have a better chance of kicking a refrigerator to get give out of it before you get this thing to get give out of it.
Holy mackerel.
And whenever I finally kicked it hard enough, because I had steel-toe boots on, I kicked it with the toe of that boot, and he finally let go.
Wow.
And I come cutting my way out of that tent. I wasn't even looking for a zipper. I took that knife and cut the door open, and I took off running, screaming for Kyle to get up. And we kicked on our lights, and everything was just dead silent. And we slept in the same tent the rest of the night. I said, screw it. If he wants that tent, he can have it.
And everything was just dead silent, you're saying?
There wasn't no crickets or anything.
Oh, man. That is a wild story, dude.
And then the second one happened in March 10th, 2021.
Okay.
And I was working at a gas station that time. Well, I got my days off in the middle of the week. And I said, I looked at what the weather was, and I'm like, screw it. I'm going camping.
Gotcha.
Well, just here last couple of years, I've come on to hammock camping, and I'll go out there and just throw a hammock up in the woods with a rain tarp, build me a fire pit, and let her ride. So I'm laying there in the hammock, and it's about 1:30 in the morning, and I'm finally starting to doze off and everything because I've got insomnia, like I'm sure a lot of people do. It takes a while for me to get to sleep.
Yep.
And I finally start to doze off, and I had the fire stoked before I started to doze off, and I was laying in there, and I had a 20 gauge shotgun sitting in the chair across the arms of the chair right next to my hammock. That way, if I need to roll out there and get in case a coyote came up in the camp or a bobcat, I could reach over and just pop them one or just shoot one in the air to run them off. About 2:00 that morning, I'm laying in there half asleep, and I'm not kidding you. This thing, Jeremiah, it moved in such stealth. All I heard was 3 steps, and it was right up on me.
Wow.
And there was still dead leaf, thick canopy of dead leaves on the ground.
Oh man.
And all I heard was 3 steps in the leaves and boom, and it come running up and it hit the tarp.
Oh boy.
Ran right into the tarp and it hit me in the hammock, and it swung that hammock out with so much force that the hammock ejected me.
Oh man. Wow.
And I couldn't do nothing but scream.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I rolled over, got the gun, and crawled up underneath that tarp and brought the gun up and turned the headlamp on. And there was one that was salt and pepper color, just
Okay.
walking off down the hill from where I was. And right there, the picture that I sent you of where I had the camo pants on with the black
Yep.
tarp and everything, that was
Yep.
the night it happened.
That was it. Wow. Oh my goodness. You've got some amazing stories, my friend. Wow. Were you ever able to look at one in the face at all?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember anything about what you were able to see in its face?
Well, I was close enough to see he had a scar on his cheek.
Really?
I went.
Oh, wow.
And this happened back in 2017. Again, like I said, I've got insomnia and I couldn't sleep that night. So I live out in the middle of the country. So
Okay.
It's pretty dead at night and everything. So if I can't sleep, I'll go out on a walk. Well, I walked up into this field that was up behind my barn. And this was right after the second cutting of baling season. And we had brown bales all over still to pick up. And I'm sitting up on this hillside, leaning up against a telephone pole, just resting and everything. And I just leaned up, and I had my headlamp on. I'm just looking down around, just because I thought it looked pretty, looking at the dew and the light on the grass. And I looked down the hill towards the creek, and there's a hay bale down there amongst the others, and I see 3 sets of eyes.
Okay.
Well, first thing out of my head was, I bet them deer are down there and they're pulling that bale apart, picking. So I went to go and run them off down there, and I had a .38 revolver with me.
Sure.
And really, I just take a revolver with me just to shoot snakes with.
Okay.
And I get down there, and I get within about 10 or 15 yards, and one of those sets of eyes stands up.
Oh man.
They were squatted down. I thought they were just 3 deer, and then one of them stood up, but it didn't stand up eye level of a deer. It kept going.
Wow.
And I had a 250 lumen Ozark Trail headlamp on.
Okay.
And I looked him square in the face and everything, and I was so close to him that I saw that he had a scar on his cheek.
Oh man.
And
wow.
I dubbed that one since I dubbed him Scar.
Yeah.
And he had 2 females with him. And the way I was able to tell that they were 2 females was because they had the mammary glands.
Exactly. Sure.
And so, I watched him and everything, and I'm like, why ain't you doing anything? He's probably looking at me like, what's this little pink thing?
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting here watching him, and he's watching me, just locked eyes. I did not feel any kind of threatened feeling at all.
Okay.
And it was more like a curiosity, because I'm sitting there looking up at him, and I turned my head like this, and he turned his head the same way as I did.
Oh boy.
And I brought my head back up. He brought his back up, and I did it back down this way. He went down this side. But the whole time he's sitting there eyeballing where that pistol is down in my holster.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just sitting there like, I said, I see you, big boy. You ain't hiding from me. And he just huffed a little bit.
Okay.
And then the 2 females stood up, and they walked across the creek and back up the hill. And then shortly after they were out of sight, he just turned around and walked off.
Wow. Man, this is some wild stories, Zach. Listeners would be pretty not okay with me if we didn't get time to talk about it. So I contacted you a few days ago.
Mhm.
Is I was like, you had emailed me, and I was reading the email. I was like, I gotta talk to Zach. I just got a feeling that he's got some cool stories.
Well,
And
I
then,
figured whenever I emailed you, I'm like, I'm
yep.
not going to give him the milk before he buys the cow.
Well, yeah, exactly. And then, I saw in your the Southern Illinois Monster Hunter group, you had your write up about like an encounter, a sighting you had a few days. Do you mind sharing about that? Because this is a pretty big deal.
Well, I will say this: I was talking to a feller with the Rope and Podcasting
Yep.
Network,
Yep.
Jake Guerrera.
Mm-hmm.
And talking about podcasters, Miss Shannon LeGros told me to tell you she said hello.
Shannon's the best. Like,
Yes.
she's my mentor pretty much. Like, she's very smart. I respect and appreciate her. And you're going to be talking to her, in tomorrow or next day, which is amazing.
But she they Jake contacted me because I'm like, you know, that place is pretty wide open. There's a lot of kids up there in this farm country.
Okay.
I'm like, these people deserve to know. Well, we got a big following on our Facebook page, so I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I might as well put my report there because it's easier to file it right there than file it on a hard drive because
Right.
on a hard drive it can get lost.
Mm-hmm.
So I put it out, and Jake Guerrera got a hold of it, and he contacted me, and he says your report is the first one that's been reported in almost 50 years.
It's since 74 was the last time the Enfield Horror was. Yeah, 73. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
And it's like me and Jake were talking. I told him, I said, I believe these things are a type of creature that I believe that they do migrate, but it's finally made the loop back around to Enfield after 50 years. And I
Wow.
believe they only come around like once every generation or so.
Hmm.
But to set the scene for you, I'd worked on a Tuesday morning,
Okay.
worked down on the Mississippi River outside of Gorham, and I got off work at 1 o'clock, and they said, "Well, it's going to rain tomorrow. Why don't you take tomorrow off?" I said, "Okay, I'm going fishing."
Okay.
So I drove from one side of the state to the other, 3 hours of straight driving, and I drove from the Mississippi River to the Wabash River, which is right between Illinois and Indiana.
Yep.
And I had my bow fishing rig with me, and I'm like, I'm just gonna go pop me a couple gar, just because I need the target practice, and there's an overabundance of them, and they need to be thinned out.
Yep.
So I went up there, and I took my regular rod and reel with me, so that way I could catch me some river cats and fillet them right there and take them home and fry them up because I
Very
like
nice.
my fish.
Yep. Yep.
And I got 12 nice guard, never got any kind of a river cat or anything. And it was getting right about 7:30, 8 o'clock. It was starting to get dark and the mosquitoes were getting real bad. So I decided, all right, time to go home. I'm not going to get West Nile virus.
Yeah.
So I went and loaded up and I started driving home. And I was driving down 45. And I got to Enfield, Illinois, which is right, Route 45 goes right through it. And it was just south of where I was, maybe about an hour. And I'm coming up on Route 14 and Route 45's intersection, right south of Enfield, between Enfield and North City. And I'm seeing where it's the four-way stop, and I just started slowing down, coasting in. And I was right at about maybe 25, 30 mile an hour coming on with the brake. And over there behind where Williams Insurance House is, right there at the intersection, because right here, if you can see that, is the intersection. Here's 45 and here's Route 14.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going north. The insurance house is right here. And then on the other side of it is an abandoned gas station.
Okay.
And I'm slowing down. I got my high beams on because there's nobody around for miles. And I'm keeping an eye out for any kind of deer because the farmers have been planting and spraying. And So I'm like, the deer are going to be stirred up from these farmers. I'm not going to smack one with my truck. So I had my
Right.
high heels on. And over there, there's a street lamp out in front of Williams Insurance House. And I see a shadow come running out from behind the building. And it goes down in the ditch. And as I come up to slow down at the stop sign, this thing comes up out of the ditch, runs across the 2-lane blacktop in about 5 or 6 steps, and back down the ditch, and it was gone. And I slammed on brakes and shut and locked the truck up and everything with the parking brake. And I had an 800 lumen headlamp sitting over here in the passenger seat. I bring that around and kick it on high as I can go, and extend and narrow the beam out to where it's more concentrated. And I'm scanning that field, and that thing had already gone. And this was all in under 10 seconds. This thing covered that much ground to where it was gone and out of sight.
Wow.
And this all happened in under 5-10 seconds from the time I saw it. So the time I stopped, and it was gone.
So can you explain what you remember about what you saw in that short of a time?
Well, anybody will tell you I'm even in a short span of time, I'm good at remembering details.
Okay.
Like they used to go and do, like, for example, and whenever I was in school and everything, they would go and they'd hold up a thing for the whole class to see, and they'd give us 5 seconds to memorize as much as we could, and then they put it away, and they'd be like, all right, what'd you remember? I would rattle off about 10, 15, 20 things.
Gotcha.
I mean, I could memorize serial numbers off a box.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I went, and in the time that this thing ran across the road, I drive an 03 Ford Ranger, and it doesn't have no lift kit on it. It's regular stock.
Okay.
This thing would the top of its back would have been level with the hood of my truck. And I'm not talking about it down on the front end. I'm talking about right below the windshield where the rise comes up from the engine block. And so that's probably about maybe 3.5, 4 feet tall. It had gray colored skin like an elephant. And it had a reptilian head on it, kind of like an alligator does, but it was kind of pug nose, so short snout. Ooh. And it had its arms was drawn up kind of like this whenever it was running, like how a raptor in Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
And it had 3 legs, the tripod legs, like it's always been reported. The legs were very muscular. They were kind of like, if you've seen how muscular a chimp's arms are, that's how the legs looked. And then the leg that was below the tailbone was kind of drawn up like this on its back. Kind of like how you do whenever you're trying to see what's on the bottom of your foot when you step dog duty.
Yep.
That's how that leg was drawn up. And it was running, leaning forward like it had the forward momentum. And I mean, if this thing was a scooting.
Yeah, it's no surprise that it covered that amount of ground in that amount of time. I mean, sounds like it's built to run.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah.
And I believe that's what the 2 legs are on this thing is built for running. And then the 3rd leg is used for propulsion, for leaping.
Yep.
Because it looked considerably bigger than the front 2 legs.
Man.
And, ever since I put it out, as of today, my report has been seen by about 20,000 people.
Oh, I'm sure, man, because it's like over the last 50 years, like there hasn't been anything regarding this, like this is just, it's wild. It's wild. And I hope it's, you said it reminded you're saying the head was like it had qualities kind of like a raptor in a way. And I'm like, man, I'll take the Enfield Horror over. Let's hope there's not a raptor out there, because that's a whole different, can of worms that we don't need to be messing around with.
Ever since I put it out, it's got a lot of scrutiny. Just in the 3-4 days it's been out, it's got a lot of scrutiny. A lot of people said that I was smoking crack and drinking and everything, and I had to put a PSA out there. Like I'm a Christian. I used to drink like a fish and everything, but I'm almost 6 months sober. I've turned my life to God, put the bottle down, picked the Bible up, and there's the old me have already been shooting off at the mouth at him.
Yep.
And everything, but like it says right here, and I'm going to read these two passages.
Go right ahead.
It's out of Mark chapter 12, verse 30 and 31. And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. This is the first commandment. And the second like it is this: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other commandment greater than these. And then you flip over here to Romans chapter 12, verses 17 through 21. It says, repay no one evil for evil. Have regard for good things in the sight of all men. If it is possible, as much as depends on you, live peaceably with all men. Beloved, do not avenge yourselves, but rather give place to wrath, for it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord. Therefore, if your enemy is hungry, now pay attention to this. If your enemy is hungry, feed them. If he is thirsty, give him drink. For doing so, you will heap coals of fire on his head. This is the good one. This is the clincher. And it says, do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good.
There you go. Good words. Good words, Zach. Thank you for sharing that. And, the thing is, you sharing the story, dude, just wait until the news outlets get it. This is not the last interview you will be doing, my friend, because I did a tweet about an Iowa Bigfoot photo. And once the news outlets get a hold of that, like I had papers in England that were talking about, it was wild. So just be ready, dude. Be ready. You never know.
Well, I'll tell you like this, I'm a blessed man, ever since I turned my life back to God and I quit smoking and quit drinking and quit chasing women, life has been a lot better. And I'm not ashamed to say it. I'm a preacher. It's my job to be honest and not hold anything back, because you never know. It may be a hope for somebody else that they're showing that there is actually a way out of all of those holes that they're in.
I got you.
Yeah. Even if I do, I've been on countless podcasts. I've traveled coast to coast, border to border, talking about this kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
And I've been in 2 movies, getting ready to be in a 3rd one. I've been on PBS.
Oh, cool.
And, it hasn't changed me one bit. I am still myself. I'm still the same old Zack you see in church on Sunday or on the street or at work. I definitely does not go to my head. And if I feel like it's going to my head, I shut myself off. Like a lot of people say, I'm a hermit. I hate people, pretty much. I go to work, I go home to my farm, or I go to the woods, and I go to church, or I go wrestle. That's all I do.
A little bit of fishing in between. Yeah. So in the last few minutes that we got, tell me, we haven't even really talked about Southern Illinois monster hunters, and you have a film coming out, right? I was talking to my my good friend Joe Turry about this, and it's
Joe. Yeah. Filmed it.
Yeah, he was telling me about it. It's called The Hunt for the Shawnee Sasquatch. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. Do you mind talking about that? Like, is that something where it's going to be on YouTube or DVD, or tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I'll give you a little backstory on that one.
All right.
That is a milestone because we had 3 states represented in that one camp.
Oh, cool. Okay.
We had Virginia and Louisiana and Illinois all in that camp.
Wow.
And we had Stacy Coughlin from Louisiana. He is the occult researcher. He is uses a pendulum and dowsing rods to help in his investigations.
Okay.
And then we had Daniel Benoit, the founder of the East Coast Bigfoot Researchers Organization out of Waynesboro, Virginia.
Yes.
And, it was, me and Benoit always talked about getting together and everything and actually doing an investigation. Well, we was able finally to. And Joe offered to come down and film it and everything, because as he said, that I helped him out a whole lot with promoting Creature from Big Muddy.
Yep.
So
Great film.
he did that as a favor to me. So I'm glad he did, because we found so much. We found close to a dozen tracks.
Wow.
We found structures, signposts of these things, and we actually, three of us laid eyes on at least four of them.
Really?
Yeah, me, Daniel Benoit, and Stacy Coughlin, we all laid eyes on them, and then everybody in camp heard them.
Wow. And was this the thing that you heard, was it was it kind of the same thing as the Ohio howl, or how would you describe kind of what you heard during that expedition?
It just sounded like a real low whoop.
Okay.
And my cousin Ben Bishop, he's our tracker for the Southern Illinois Monster Hunters.
Sure.
And he heard it first, and I thought it was an airplane. And then I looked up in the sky and everything, and I'm looking all the way around, and I'm not seeing any kind of airplane lights in the sky. And then it sounded like it was on the ground.
Mm.
And it was a good project and a good expedition and everything. We got a lot on film. A lot didn't make the cut and everything, but the good stuff did. And I'm not going to spoil it, but we caught something.
Oh man, nice.
Yeah, and
that
we
sounds
got it
awesome.
on camera.
Oh wow!
You have to see the movie to see it.
You gotta do it. You gotta do it, dude. And that's awesome.
And we're actually going to that was our annual camp out, our 7th anniversary camp out that we did this year with it. And we do camp outs every year. May of next year is looking to be the target month for us, and we will be going and camping out probably in the same area again.
Okay.
In no man's land. It's free to the public. Anybody can join. We actually had people from Louisiana and Virginia, and then with Daniel and Stacy, and then we actually had two gentlemen by the name of James and the one we affectionately call Chi-Town come all the way down from Chicago to camp out with us.
Oh wow!
And they were complete skeptics when they walked into our camp, and whenever they left, they were firm believers.
They were not. Yeah. Wow, that's awesome.
And whenever we do these campouts, I don't ever guarantee we're actually going to find something.
Sure.
We'll be lucky if we even find even a structure. But we got lucky.
Man, that's exciting. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna check that out. And you said, is that a DVD only thing, or is that YouTube, or what are you thinking?
Well, we've got DVDs right now.
Okay.
You can go to facebook.com /hunt for the Shawnee Sasquatch, and it's on Facebook, or you can go on Facebook and type it in and find it. You can place your order through the messenger tab on there. You will go directly to me, and it's $20 a copy.
Nice.
And then as soon as we get the copyright and everything took care of it and get all the closed captions, we're going to be putting it on Amazon Prime and Tubi.
Oh, okay, cool. Dude, Tubi's great. Tubi's got the most collection of Bigfoot anywhere you can find on the internet. It's intense, and they're coming out with some original content with Bigfoot and Yeti stuff in October. I was talking to a producer on Twitter. Dude, they're great. But I'd love for you guys. I know Big Muddy's on Tubi right now. It's good stuff. But Zach, it's already, believe it or not, we've already almost gone an hour, and this has been so much fun. You're gonna hang out a little bit longer, talk with our Patreon members. There's already a few questions in the chat. But thank you so much for coming on. Do you mind sharing real quick how people can follow along with your adventures and this Southern Illinois monster hunters, stuff like that?
Yep. Well, there's a number of places they can actually find me.
All right.
I've actually got quite a few Facebook pages for all of my passions and everything. First and foremost, if they want to follow my journey in ministry and everything, you can find my Starrick Music Ministry page on Facebook. If you want to see my outdoor adventures, check out Duke Randall Outdoors on Facebook. The Southern Illinois Monster Hunters on Facebook, of course. If you have a report, click the message tab and you can send it in to us, and one of us will get back to you.
Awesome.
And then the Hunt for the Shawnee Sasquatch on Facebook as well, where you can get any kind of updates, any kind of deals we're running, and that way you can order your copies of the DVD. You can follow me on Twitter at DR Outdoors 2021. Follow me on Instagram, Duke Randall Official. Find me on Facebook under Zack D. Starrick. You can go and what else? Follow me on TikTok, Real 618 Cowboy.
Are you really on? You're on TikTok too? I gotta check you out. Yeah,
about 6,000 subscribers.
Dude, it's where it's the organic growth. Like Instagram's pretty much dead. Like TikTok is where, like, dude, the reports I get on TikTok would blow your mind. Like people are sharing stuff about cryptids there like crazy.
And then you can follow my YouTube channel, subscribe to it.
Nice.
It's under Zack D. Starrick. You can see episodes of Duke Randall Outdoors where I take you on an adventure with me every so often.
Oh, cool.
Whether it's hunting, fishing, camping, exploring, road tripping, even breaking out new gear and stuff like that for campouts. And then the Southern Illinois Monster Hunters YouTube show called Mysterious Illinois.
I love it. Oh, man. There's a lot to check out from this one. Zack, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a fun chat.
And then I forgot my podcast.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, my podcast. It's on Spotify,
okay,
Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. It's called Wrestling with Monsters. It's a podcast for wrestlers, wrestling fans, and cryptid enthusiasts alike.
Dude, yeah, because the Venn diagram, like, there's a crossover there, big time. Yeah,
because it's three wrestlers three wrestlers, a retired wrestler, an active wrestler, and a referee. And that are all actually monster hunters.
Dude, I love it. I'm going to check that out. Zack, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a good time. Thank you so much, dude.
No problem.
Thanks for listening to the Bigfoot Society podcast. Please take a few minutes to review the show on iTunes, 5 stars, as it does help us get into the eyes and ears of more listeners on iTunes. That will help us just get bigger and bigger and get even better quality guests for future shows. Also, if you have any Bigfoot encounters or cryptid encounters, please send your stories and audio and photos, whatever you've got, over to bigfootsociety@gmail.com. If you'd like to become more involved with Bigfoot Society and get some extra content, we do have a Patreon where you can get all sorts of cool things. For example, for $7 a month, you get extra Bigfoot Society content, usually interviews, but other things as well. You get a sweet membership card and a vinyl sticker that I send to you in the mail. You get access to the Bigfoot Society after show, which is an extra interview after the main interview with the weekly guest, and usually they are up for Patreon members to be in that extra show segment with them and me, and you get to ask your question live to them and get an answer from the guest, which, as you've seen what guest we've had in the past, this could be a really big deal. There's also a private Discord where you can get involved with talking to me one-on-one and the community there, and that's always a great time. You can find the Patreon at www.patreon.com/The Bigfoot Society. We're very thankful for all our supporters that we have in so many different ways, and appreciate all our listeners coming back week after week to listen to more cryptozoology-based interviews. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. The views and opinions expressed are those of the guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Bigfoot Society. Any content provided by our guests are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, or anyone. Thank you.